distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Gen Zs don't like stress. I hate to break it to you. Stress is here to stay. Stress is a normal part of our lives. The only people who don't face stress are who? Yes, the people who are 6 feet and under. I will be speaking about a topic very passionate in my heart, mental health. Every day, day in, day out, whether we know it or not, consciously or unconsciously, we're trying measures, methods, strategies to see how best we can keep this our head in a good place. I'd like us to consider these 3 cases every day, including today. I interact with people, regardless of their ages, gender, socioeconomic status, race, or even religion. But I want us to give some attention to these 3 people. The first case is that of BU, a 21-year-old university undergraduate who presented at my ER when I was at the Yaba Psychiatric Hospital 10 years ago. When I asked her, "How are you?" she said, in her words, "I am tired and I want it all to end." What does that sound like? Suicide. And so we called for the only person she wrote as emergency contact. That person was a friend. She didn't even write family. When I asked her, "Don't you have family members?" she said, "I would rather die than let them know that there's something going on with me." That night, she discharged herself against medical advice. The next morning, I got a call that she had overdosed on her medication. To the glory of God alone, she's still alive today, because she utilized mental health services. Now let's take the story of ZW, a 19-year-old from a dysfunctional home with multiple episodes of domestic violence. They are children. They don't know what we're doing. They can't understand. And so parents do a lot of things behind closed doors and even in front of the children, breaking the children's spirit and increasing their own chances for low self-esteem and low self-perception as they go on in life. The third case is that of MS, a 30-year-old exposed to multiple physical and sexual abuse from childhood. As an adult, MS is unable to draw boundaries in relationships. MS wants to satisfy everyone because that is the path that life has chosen for her. We are BU. We are ZW, and we are MS. Today's conversation will help us examine the importance of mental health. I would identify the common stressors faced by young people, including myself. We will learn how to build resilience and coping skills, and we'll look at practical tips on how we can survive. Most importantly, we will know how to use resources around us. Now, what is mental health? If we did this little social experiment and I said, "You are in this hall and you have mental health, please show by raise of hands." You are in this hall and you have mental health, please raise up your hands. Please look around you. You are in this hall and you have mental health, please raise up your hand. Look around you. Now it's creeping in. Why didn't you raise up your hand initially? Why? You didn't understand. Why didn't you raise up your hands? Let me tell you why you didn't raise up your hands. You had mental. And you said, Yaba left. The old man or woman on the street. Today, we will change that notion because all of us have mental health. Now, let's do that social experiment again. You are here and you have mental health. Please raise up your hands. What we all don't have is mental illness. However, it's a continuum. Because life's experiences, challenges, obstacles, life's curveballs can move us in either direction towards health or illness. And so we must be intentional about what we do. So mental health talks about how we think, how we feel, what we believe, and how we behave. That's the simple definition. It's the health of the mind, because at the end of the day, mental health impacts how we cope with what? The normal stresses of life. Stress is normal. What is abnormal is when stress becomes chronic and disabling. Number 2, if you are mentally healthy, it means that you are able to have good relationships first with yourself and with others. Number 3, you'll be able to contribute your quota to the environment that you live in. And last but not the least, you'll be able to live productively and fruitfully. Now, the youth and mental health. You are all important because beyond being the youngest population on the planet, mental health challenges in young people are the leading cause of disability and death. You must also know that depression, anxiety, behavioral disorders, substance use disorders, and we know that there's so much diversity. So again, it's not only the good things that are innovating and diversifying. It's also important that you talk about your mental health because suicide. We don't talk about it that much. We deny it when it happens. We turn a blind eye. We pretend like ostrich with their head in sand when suicide cases happen. But suicides happen. And suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds. In spite of the staggering statistics, many mental health conditions remain unidentified, undiagnosed, and untreated. If we do not address these issues now, not only will you not enjoy now, you will also not enjoy the quality of a thriving adulthood. It would also affect physical and mental health. I will not shy away from the social determinants of health. We often always say it, the environment is against us. Don't we say so? Yes. And yes, it is tough. It is difficult. We're not going to deny that everything is beautiful and bright. We need to look at these non-biological measures: income, social protection, education, unemployment, job insecurity, work-life conditions, poverty. A lot of people also are ill but are unable to afford healthcare services. And that's why my conversation is always about health promotion and prevention. Instead of me waiting to see you at the other end of the line, how can I equip you with the right information to cater to your mind, body, and soul? Is this you? So I'm again reminded, you don't like stress. And so this is all of us. It's Monday again tomorrow. Now, what are some of the stressors that are faced by young people? The news and uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty around. There are issues with climate change, flooding, no rains when we expect the rains, food insecurity. There's alcohol and drug abuse. And so people tell you, I just want to get high. I just want to be high. There are problems with loneliness. Our world is so lonely that in the UK there's a minister for loneliness. If we did another social experiment and we said, how many of you are on one social media platform? 2, 3, you see the hands start going up now. 4, 5, let's see your hands. 6, 7, 8. But no generation of people has ever been lonely as we are. A lot of us lack human contact and support, sometimes intentionally. Some of us have pre-existing health conditions. And of course, we must talk about power problems. The impact of Japa. And so the African Union Office of the Youth Envoy said that these were areas of concern for youth. Mental health and climate change. Mental health and digital spaces. Cyberbullying. Cyber stalking. Mental health and isolation. Again, loneliness is reinforced. Mental health and education. And mental health and economic development. These are their top concerns. Not like there are not many other problems, but these are the top concerns for the African Union Office. When our mental health fails, and our mental health can fail. And so what are some of the disorders we see when people have mental health challenges? Disorders of anxiety, mood, sleeping, sexual disorders, disorders of behavior, self-esteem issues. I remember asking one of my patients to write what I usually call the I am piece. I said, start every sentence with I am. And everything else, just put a sentence. And he said, I am ugly, I am foolish, I am stupid, I I am not street smart. Many people don't like themselves. And sometimes it is because of the things that you have been told by the people who are supposed to be your safe space. We'll talk about issues of cyber stalking and cyberbullying, increased risk behavior, sexual and substance abuse. These days we see all sorts. There's psychosis, where the individual cannot cope with reality. There's self-harm. A lot of young people these days are cutting themselves with blades, with knives, just because they say that their minds are so overwhelmed and they cannot cope. How do we develop resilience and coping skills? Because these dangers are here and we cannot run away from them. You need to build meaningful connection. What does that mean? You need people. You cannot do it alone. It takes a village. And it's not just English. It's not just a proverb, it's the reality. Number 2, you must strive for wellness on the 8 pillars of wellness: physical, emotional, social, intellectual, occupational, environmental, and financial. You must engage in healthy thinking. As a man thinks, your thoughts matter. Your words are not just words. The words that you tell yourselves matter. And of course, you must find meaning and purpose in the work that you do. What is your role to play? You must understand that mental health is not just my business. In current Nigeria, we have less than 200 psychiatrists to over 200 million people. So 1 to 1 million. I'm an endangered species as it stands. Take your mental health into your hands. Make it a priority. There's a professor of psychiatry at the Harvard University that says that mental health is too serious to be left to the professionals alone, and mental health is everybody's business. You must identify your triggers and your stressors. What makes me feel edgy? What are the people, places, and processes that make me feel less of myself? You must heal from your own trauma. We all carry trauma. The 4 L's. If you don't take anything away, take this away. You must learn about mental health. You must look out for yourself and look out for others. Before you look out for yourself, you must know yourself. You must listen to yourself and others in a kind, compassionate, and non-judgmental manner. You see, when people come to meet you and they say, I need your help, almost always, we think that they're asking for what? Money. But the philosopher Leo Buscaglia says that we underestimate the power of a kind word, an honest compliment, a kind touch, all of which have the power to change an individual's life. And the last is that even when you don't know what to do, link people up with sources of support. I'll leave us with these 10 tips to keep mentally healthy. Self-awareness and self-regulation. Know yourself. Man, woman, know thyself, because it is in the knowing of yourself that the best will emerge. 2, do deep work. There's a book, Deep Work, by Cal Newport. Please read. Be hungry for knowledge. Be versatile. Be agile. We usually talk about the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and risk-filled world. Be agile. Turn off your phones. Turn off your devices. Go on a social media break. There was life before all of these things. We're drowning in them and we're losing the very essence of ourselves. Do deep work. Number 3, learn to play. We don't stop becoming children because we grow up. Become adults overnight because we stop learning to play. Play with yourself, play with your spouse, play with your friends, play with your children. Celebrate your wins. We're so hard on ourselves these days. You achieve something and the next thing you're like, what's the next big thing? Stop and tell yourself, a few years ago I never thought I could do this. This is me now. Well done. You must learn to communicate and say no. Assertiveness. Stop being Mr. Nice Guy every time. Oh, do this. Okay, I'll take it on. Oh, do this. I'll take it on. Your battery will run down fast. Manage your energy. We have 4 types of energy. A Harvard Business Review said this: physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. Eat right, sleep well, rest. Gravitate towards people who want to see you become a better version of yourself. Stop staying in places where you are tolerated. Go to places where you are celebrated. For your psychological energy, turn off your phone. For your spiritual energy, connect with your source. God is my source. What is your source? Find a source. Care for others. It's such a selfish world we live in now, and everybody's thinking about themselves first. My family and I. And while that's okay, caring for others will teach you resilience. People go through tough times. If everyone here had to come up on this stage and tell us something that they're going through, you'd be shocked. Everyone is going through something that you know nothing about. The least you can do is be kind. You must also make time to rest and relax. Rest too. Use vitamin R. What is vitamin R? Rest. You will learn to make stress your friend. Stress is not the enemy. It is what you tell yourself about stress. And of course, learn to ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it is a sign of strength. Ask for help. I can learn from a 3-year-old. As I round up, I want us to look at this, kindness and empathy. Usually when we talk about kindness, we talk about gifting kindness to other people. What happened to you? Are you not deserving of kindness? Are you not deserving of love and compassion? Gift yourself that. In the way you speak to yourself, the way you behave around yourself, and the things that you believe in yourself. If you ask me to say something unforgettable about myself, I'll say I am phenomenal. Day in, day out, week in, week out, every day. It's how I feel about myself. And the words that I tell myself matter. Empathy. Bill Clinton once said, see people. The people that do work for you, see them. Acknowledge them. Learn to say thank you. Because kindness and empathy are the cornerstone of our collective mental health. As I round up, I say to you, keep your chin up. No one expected you to save the world. Otherwise, you'd have been born with what? A cape and tights. And you'd have been super what? I'd have been super Gbonjubola. I don't know about you. Just do the best you can. But in the words of Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, please do better. Do remember at all times that there is indeed no health without mental health. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention.
Wow. Thank you so much for that impactful and insightful session, Ma. We truly appreciate you. I would like to take 1 or 2 questions. So if you have any question for her before she leaves the stage.
There is a book by Jane Jacuzza Rosell. He's a philosopher and a sociologist. He says something, a man was born free, but everywhere chained. So the question is, how can we be free from the psychopathological perspective?
How can we be free from the psychopathological component of life? And I will tell you, it starts with the mind. In the mind, and what you do with your mind. You cannot be bigger than your mind. You cannot be bigger than what you tell your mind. And so, many times, the environment will tell you otherwise. But please, grow above your mind. Bob Marley said, and I quote, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. And the last thing I would say is the words of Kunle Adewale, where you are born and how you are born is not as important as why you are born. Speak to your mind, look at your mindset, renew your mind. So please, again, it goes back to the mind. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. What do you do when you find yourself in a toxic workplace or in the midst of a family, toxic people?
How do you communicate in a toxic workplace environment? Unfortunately, toxicity abounds in many workplaces and even many homes and even many relationships. When I do presentations on mental health in the workplace, I always put this slide, and I say that if you saw this slide before going into a workplace, working here may be dangerous to your health and well-being. How many of you will take the job? You see people raising up their hands. They say, at least we'll go there, we'll find out what's going on. The money might be good, but toxicity kills slowly. And so how can you help yourself in a toxic environment, even in a toxic family? If it's in the family, it's difficult because you can't take yourself out. I would encourage you to equip yourself with knowledge. You see, there's some patients that come to see me in therapy and they say, My marriage is hurting me, but I don't want to leave. I can see everything that is costing me, but I don't want to leave. And I say, you know what? You're going to have to build yourself what? A lovely bubble. While you are still there, you need to find strength within yourself. You need to look for resources outside. You may never be able to change those people, but you can change how you react to what those people say to you.
My question is, reacting to a kind of stress in your environment, does it mean you've not healed from a trauma, or you are the problem, or the person triggering you is the issue?
There was a day I was at work during COVID, and we had to go and pick up a patient who had become destructive to herself and others from home. And of course, she wasn't happy. And so after I introduced myself, she looked at me and she said, why am I here? And I told her, your relatives have said this, they've said this. But of course, I also saw that this patient wasn't looking well. And she looked at me and said, doctor, I have something to tell you. And I said, go ahead. And she said, looking me straight in the eyes, do you know that you are so incompetent? But I didn't react. Instead, I took it in. And I tried to understand where she was coming from. She was coming from a place of pain. And she said, you are so incompetent, it drips from you to your nurses, to your psychologists, to your occupational therapists. And when she finished, I said, is that all? She said, yes. And I smiled and I said, I would like to thank you for your compliment. She looked at me and hit the table. It is not a compliment. You think I don't know? But I knew what she was trying to achieve. She wanted me to come across and say, do you know who I am? Do you know, go and meet the nurses? But I didn't do that. People will come at you. People will say things about you. Sometimes even the people that you consider a safe haven will let you down. How do you respond to what they say to you? Many times, the words are weighty. Let's not just dismiss it and say, just, shake it off. No, the words are weighty. But you need to reassure yourself that it's just for a time and a season. And what they say about me does not define who I am. Sometimes the things that trigger us is largely because we're still healing. Trauma responses. Somebody says something to you and you get feisty. You want to throw something. Fight. Someone says something to you and because you can't cope with it, you ghost them. Flight. Someone touches you in an inappropriate place and you remember an abuse that happened to you and you're frozen. You can't move. You can't do anything. You freeze. Someone says something nasty to you and even with all the negativity that they're bringing to you, you are smiling and you're saying, I still love you. I'm the one who has a problem. Fawning trauma response. All of us carry trauma. And until we're able to come to terms with the trauma, a patient once said to me, my trauma, I put it in a box, I've wrapped it with wrapping paper, I put it behind a wall, it can never come. And I said, one day, a smell, a taste, a touch, a sound, a sight will bring that trauma back. Face your trauma. Face your fears.
My question is this. When people discover that they have mental health issues, and then maybe it's beginning to affect them, and if you say, visit a counselor, they see it like you are stigmatizing them. How can they be helped?
Mental health issues. When people have mental health issues, nobody wants to be told there's anything wrong with them. And so instead of saying there is something wrong with you, say to them, something happened to you. What's going on with you? Do you want to share with me? Do you want us to go to the therapist together? It's interesting. I saw a patient yesterday, and the session was set up by someone else who was also supposed to be in that session. And I commended her. You came. In spite of the fact that this person did not come, this person is making it look like you are the problem. But I never want us to get to the point where we are struggling, where they have to hold you down to give you injections. Health promotion and prevention, extremely important. Okay, so having more counselors. It's the reason why I spoke about the mental health first aiders. The goal is to put the power back into your hands. Even the WHO agrees that the people who have the skill, the specialty, are not able to cater to everyone. And so while we're not saying we're going to make doctors and professors overnight, let us give you the basic skills in terms of mental health first aid. What to do to someone who is struggling with suicide, what to say to someone who is going through depression. Everybody needs to know. You know how we talk about first aid? Or if somebody is choking, you go around and you do this. There's also first aid in mental health. We'll make a better world, one person at a time. Thank you.